recording. Yes, okay, good. And let me pull up the screen. So here's section 13. So I did send over, you guys got that now?
Yep.
All right, so I did send over a late afternoon amendment to section 13, which is more representative of what Marla sent over the weekend. But again, we're not reading through the full text. Marla is on for this section, and Kathleen is on a timer, essentially, because she's got house guests. So we'll go through these first two sections. Well, it's in order anyway. So as we have been, I'm just going to quickly scroll through each section. I apologize that, let me actually make this view bigger. Oh, hold on a second.
So if I've seen little typos, should I just email those to you?
You can call them out if they're quick and I can note them as we go, or you can email them either way. It's, you know, since this is the final review, this is a point at which typos are something that I don't want to accidentally miss. Okay, so we'll go through section by section. If anybody notices anything factually incorrect, typos, or something that we spoke about earlier that didn't make it into a section, this is the time to call it out. For whatever it's worth, tomorrow I am going into my office at 8:30 in the morning, and I'm not coming out until the final draft is complete so I can get it to P&Z so they have at least one day ahead of the holidays to read and be comfortable with it before they are presented with it for voting to adopt on Monday. Okay, water resources overview. Any commentary? Alvin, I did get yours, so I have those marginal notes here. Any comments on the overview for water resources? And Marla's here to answer questions too. Don't worry about the formatting so much because it doesn't copy over when I transfer it to my desktop. The fonts aren't loaded and stuff. So 13.2 dams and flood management. Anybody notice anything here that needed to be addressed? Nice maps. Thanks to Carolyn and Marla. Yay, maps. Yeah, don't worry about this text box. That's just formatting weirdness. Okay. 13.3, drinking water supply in Thompson. Same thing. Anything that anybody noticed needs to call out? 13.4, water quality.
Second paragraph, the last line. Is may accelerate?
Yeah, good catch. These changes in land use around these water bodies may. Okay.
And when you get down to paragraph 7, line 2, maintains, comma, mimics.
I think Alvin caught that one too,
Okay,
maybe.
right.
Let me see. I have to count paragraphs now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. LID measures.
Second, as a registrant, and then the second line, maintains, comma, mimics or replicates.
Yes, that is the one. Okay, I did get that.
Okay.
Oh, here comes Leslie. Oh, I see why I'm confused. All right. Yes, I already have that. Okay, perfect. Anything else in this section? 13.5, inland wetlands and water courses and their regulation. All right, so this is why we're here, which is the action steps. So let's look at these and separate them out: highest, medium, lowest priority of this, and in as far as we can, which ones are short, medium, and long term, because I'm trying to prioritize them on both of those matrices in the final table. So these I will read out, and then we can call them out from there. Suggested action items: ensure emergency operation information for all dams identified by DEEP as significant hazard and high hazard are included in Thompson's emergency operation plan. Develop a mitigation plan to ensure Langer's Pond Dam is in a safe condition in accordance with DEEP's inspection, repair, and maintenance requirements. I'm just going to mark that as high because I'm actually working on that right now. Update the flood prevention ordinance to current standards set by FEMA as soon as FEMA's updated mapping of flood-prone areas is available in GIS form. Prior to expanding sanitary sewer mains into the Thompson Hill area beyond the Marianapolis Preparatory School, perform an analysis of groundwater availability that could be affected by the removal of groundwater from the district via sanitary sewers. Marla, is that the same as the last one that you included, which I have as a bullet point here? Well, we'll read through them and then you tell me if that's it. Okay.
It is the same.
Because I didn't notice that until now. Okay. So that's fine. Where was I?
I would take the latter. I'd take the last one over the first one.
Take the last one over the first one. Okay.
Before any expansion of sanitary sewers.
Yep.
Because the sewer that was installed at Marianapolis has truncated ends that will allow for the expansion with, no new sewer line going in if the horizontal bore gets completed. If it doesn't, then it'll probably be going up Route 195 or 193, excuse me.
Yeah. Research the potential impact of the existing salt storage facility located at the Public Works Garage and provide adequate resources to address any anticipated adverse impacts to potential groundwater contamination.
I was going to say,
Yep,
yeah,
I agree.
That should be,
isn't it? Yeah.
For Little Pond and Aquatic Reservoir, develop and provide advice to homeowners on property management techniques that minimize the import of nutrients into those water bodies. Provide adequate funding to, here comes Amy. Provide adequate funding to complete the work required by DEEP Consent Order number WC 5129. Provide adequate funding to Public Works Department to perform actions required by the MS4 permit. Ensure revisions to the subdivision regulations meet the requirement of the MS4 permit, including but not limited to reduction of effective impervious cover in the MS4 urban areas. Prioritize the utilization of green infrastructure, LID practices to reduce stormwater runoff in high impervious cover areas, to reduce stormwater volume and protect water quality, and preserve high quality tributaries and undeveloped headwater areas from existing pollutant sources and future threats related to new development through the use of community practices such as open space preservation, conservation easements, and green infrastructure LID. Provide resources
that should
to
be high because
re-inventory.
the town.
Yeah, go ahead.
That should be high because the town is out of compliance with the general permit, and it already has an outstanding consent order that it hasn't complied with. So bringing itself back into compliance with the MS4 permit requirements, and it's well overdue by over a year. So changing the zoning regulations should be a high priority.
Okay, yeah, subdivision regulations is the next thing we're doing, so that sort of almost makes it high by default anyway. But yes, so that'll go way up. Provide resources to re-inventory Thompson's wetlands and water courses to reflect current conditions based on new information and assessment tools available. And through adequate staffing of the Public Works Department, develop a monitoring system for compliance. This is not, okay. And then that last one we've already sort of talked about, so this one.
No, I was talking about the re-inventorying of the Thompson's wetlands and water courses is not high.
No, okay. So that leaves us with this one, which is through adequate staffing of the Public Works Department, develop a monitoring system for complying with the MS4 permit. Consider adding a layer for MS4 data in the map GIS application. All right, so we've identified right off the bat a couple that are in that highest tier, which is the mitigation plan for Langes Pond Dam, which is actually somewhat underway.
Emergency operation plans for high hazard dams should be high, because we already
Okay.
have one high hazard dam that it has a real significant potential. So whatever we can get into the emergency operation plan would be beneficial.
Okay,
That's North Grosvenordale Pond Dam.
yep. The salt shed, we've identified as high.
The FEMA mapping
And-
is not high, because who knows when they're going to come out with the GIS.
Okay. So that's the medium priority, medium to long term. Little Pond Aquatic Reservoir, that's got to be in the medium, I would say, medium to low.
Correct.
About voluntary behaviors. Consent order number WC 5129. Can you clarify that a little bit, where we are in the priority list here?
That was
that-
the Marianapolis school. That was the Marianapolis school pollution problem and the problems up on Thompson Hill. And the sewer line that went through the horizontal, was supposed to go the horizontal bore under the interstate. That is it's been in litigation at this point in time, but that order is still outstanding. I just don't know how close DEP is to pushing that, because as long as that order's not complied with, as long as Marianapolis handles its pollution, its lagoons, because they're working off of lagoons now, that may not be as critical. So kind of looking at that as being not necessarily high, but it could come and bite the town later on. I don't know where they stand in the litigation for the horizontal bore that
Okay.
failed. So that's probably
All right.
long-term.
Sounds like a long-term though, right? Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So regardless of its priority level, it's still a long-term concern. Okay. And the so provide adequate funding to Public Works Department to perform actions required by MS4 permit. That's sort of a piece with the one after it, I would say, wouldn't you? Or not so much the
Yes,
subdivision
yes.
regulations, but the, where's the other one? Where's the
You were
other
talking about
MS4?
adequate staffing of Public Works to develop monitoring system.
Yeah,
Those two are tied together. Those are long-term, by the way. That's not a short-term thing. I don't see the MS4 permit going away in any near future. And the town has an outstanding consent order for failing to comply with the MS4 permit. So it's important, and it's going to be long-term, but I don't know if there should be better funding, because I'm not going to be doing the annual reports anymore. And the town's going to have to find some way of doing those. So I think there has to be so far the town's been dedicating about 18,000 a year for just the paper, work that needs to be done, and all the mapping and the survey stuff that needs to be done. But there's going to have to be monitoring along the way, and Public Works doesn't have the staff to do that right now. So that either that or they have to hire somebody to do it. I know that J&D does it for the town of Putnam. And I don't know what the cost of that is, but
okay.
the downside is they could get an enforcement action on them, but because of the past history. So, and the town has already paid $7,000 in penalties for failing to comply with the MS4 permit.
Okay. Are you, so we're calling that what? A sort of high priority, but long-term?
Yeah. I think once everything gets put into place and it gets accepted as this is a job that Public Works has to do, it'll become routine, but it's not right now. So maybe that's a short-term thing. The funding has to be there on a long-term basis, but addressing the shortfalls now is important because of the outstanding consent order that was entered into in 2010. 2009, something like that.
Okay. All right, I think I have everything I need here. Judy, did you have anything you wanted to add here?
I don't. I agree with everything that Marla said.
Okay. I think we can move on from this section then to get to education, unless anybody has anything they want to comment on. Final comments for this section?
If there are no further comments, then I'm going to leave the meeting.
Sounds good, Marla. Thank you for dialing in.
Thank you.
Okay, education is up, so we can get Kathleen out of here for her house guest as well. So let me switch over the screen because this is a different. Okay. Oops. Share screen. You guys got that up?
Mhm.
All right, so let's get down to education. Education. Okay, any comments, additions, or noted omissions from section 14.1, education in Thompson, a historical foundation?
Actually, I've read through this and I find nothing. I thought it was well written.
Excellent.
Yeah, no, I don't have any problems with it at all.
Okay, go ahead.
I've read it through several times. I'm not the greatest proofreader in the world, but I've read it through several times and I have no problems with it. So.
Okay.
Mm.
14.2, student body demographics and economics. I mean, this is mostly factual, but if anybody noticed anything that we addressed in conversation but didn't make it in here, this is where we want to catch it.
Ira,
Yes, Alvin.
your student population,
Mm-hmm.
all those percentages, we're not hitting
This
100.
one?
Yeah. You add that up, it's 99.53. So we're missing 0.47.
Well,
Hey, well, plug it.
how troublesome.
Plug it
Well,
into
no, we don't wanna-
Caucasian.
we don't wanna-
Plug it into the Caucasian.
That's probably where it is, but I'll
sure it
go
is.
back and see if Melinda can refine that a little bit.
Right. It probably carried it out to the third decimal place or something, but I'm dollars to donuts. It's in the Caucasian.
Yeah, I mean that's my feeling as well. But
Right.
yeah, I'll circle around to Melinda on that tomorrow just to see if she can double check that for me.
Yeah. Okay. Great
okay.
catch, Alvin. I didn't even think of adding those up.
Well, we don't want to pull a Jill Biden here when somebody,
All right. But it would be good if they got it up to 100. That would be great.
Yeah, they should add up to 100 for sure.
Right.
Okay, 14.3, Board of Education roles, responsibilities, and advocacy. Just so you're aware, Kathleen, this was written in the first person plural when you sent it to me. I switched the voice to the third person to make it more consistent with the rest of the document.
Very good. Very good. Mhm.
Okay.
That's fine.
All right. Where am I here?
Okay. Our vision statement is fine. Our mission statement didn't change.
Yeah, it was just the voice that I changed in that
good.
section.
That's good.
Portrait of a graduate, 14.4.
That was Melinda's contribution. So.
Yep, I think that was pretty solid. 14.5, challenges and opportunities for education in Thompson. I did ask Melinda to send me some more specifics about some of the sort of point of pride stuff. I mean, these couple of paragraphs I essentially wrote.
Okay.
Which means that the perspective is from somebody outside the system.
But I've read them.
For example.
No, I think they're good though. I don't know, Tira?
It's
Tyra?
Tira, yeah,
Tira.
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 Like the tears that we cry. It's the
Yeah,
easiest
that's
way to
what
remember it
somebody
ever.
said, so I'm trying to remember it. Okay. No, I think
Yeah.
I think they're good. I think they're good.
Okay.
I don't have a problem with them.
Okay,
Retention of students, I think you hit that one on the, on the head, nail on the head there. I think the graying of the community is absolutely correct. Our demographics are changing. We'll see what happens when when they build these new housing developments. That may help. Retention of students, we did retain them this year, and we'll see if our new programs, our pathways, help continue that maintaining. It's a very strange year. We really can't judge this year because of the pandemic. So, we'll see what happens in future years.
yeah, the
And-
only thing that came up in a later conversation, Kathleen, one that after the initial one that you and Melinda were in on, was that Leslie had mentioned, because obviously she interacts a lot with the school, is that the music and art programs up there, especially when you consider the size of the district, are really excellent. And I don't have any direct connection to anybody up there in those departments.
Okay.
So I don't know if you or Melinda would have time to send something to me in the morning that I could work off of. I would like
I'll text
bring in those high points in
Yeah,
as far as possible.
Okay, I'll text Melinda because they're very robust programs, both the music and the
Yeah.
art program, especially the music program. Very robust.
Yeah, and that's what Leslie had said too. But again, because I don't interact with those
Okay.
programs, I couldn't talk about them the way I could talk about, for example, some of the stuff that Mike Joyce did, and those volunteers came down and worked on my projects, and the walking school bus that I'm working on with Melinda. Like I touch those so I can talk about them, but the others, it was just a blank spot for me.
Okay, I'll make myself a note.
Okay,
I
so
could
then
really
this
can't
again.
speak to those either the way Melinda could speak to those, or get one of the like Carol Rossetti to come in and tell you about that Fortuna, and I can't remember the name of what it is, but they have, the choral group, and they have a whole bunch of, they really have a very, very robust musical program up there.
Yeah, I mean, I would love to get some. I mean, obviously, I'm a musician myself, so it's close to my heart.
Yeah.
But in the interest of time, it's got to be tomorrow, or it doesn't make it.
Okay, I'll tell her that.
Content. All right.
Just a paragraph on it, but yeah.
Yeah, that would be plenty.
Okay.
Okay, so now we're at the suggested action steps. So let's do the same here that we did with the last. Let's get these into our highs, mediums, lows. What's
Well, they're all
short,
high.
medium, and long term.
They're all high.
Okay, well, how about your short, medium, and long term?
Okay. Well, they're all, like, for example, dedicated leadership. That they're all continuing. What I'm trying to say here, dedicated leadership is very high, and it's on a continuum. We always have to have it. So if one of the principals was to resign or retire, we would have to go and replace that person with another dedicated person, or a highly you know what I'm trying to say here, a highly qualified person. Yes. We're always working on establishing the environment. We have to continually work on to keep the environment and keeping kids engaged, and keeping that environment fruitful for them to work, to be, to learn. We're always working on keeping that a learning environment. So nurturing that, children. we're working continually and collaborating with the town and with the community. These are all continuing things. They don't just happen once and then we forget about it.
Right, right.
You know?
Yeah, with most of the topics that were here, I mean, we have things like these, which are sort of philosophical goals, and then there are specific steps assigned to them that we can put into that matrix.
Right. So create the.
So that might be another thing to ask Melinda to send me, is some actual actionables.
Well, like the create the multiple academic pathways. That
Okay.
has a stop and a start. We have created the mechanical program. We've created that. Now we're going to work on creating a couple other pathways.
Okay, so that in some senses is your shortest term goal, because
Correct.
it is a finite project.
Yeah, that's going to have a start and stop. Investing in technology, that's a medium range, because that has, as technology goes along, I mean, you invest in technology as we know it today, and we continue to replace that technology, but that's over time.
Sarah?
I hear you, Joanne. What you got?
My suggestion is, when I look at these, I view every one of them as important, and none of should be at the bottom of the list. Can you just kind of say up at the top, and just say that none of these are in any particular order, because they're all deemed important, because we're talking about educating our children. So my thoughts would be, why put them in any particular order, and just express that they're all urgent. This isn't, to me, like the environment or some of the other issues that we have in town, but educating our children. And all of these points are well taken and really important. That's my opinion. So
yeah, I kind of agree with that, Joanne. It's not like we're building a new school where this is step one, this is step two. These are continually ongoing, always evolving issues.
Correct. So don't put them in order. Just make a statement that these are all critical issues, and we're on top of them every year.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay. Yeah. So if I have understanding that they are all priorities, roughly equally ranked, or equally enough to sort of not matter how we rank them, so then I think, yes, the short, medium, long term vision for how they are implemented is the piece that we get. But we have a couple here. The multiple academic pathways being an immediate, finite set of curriculum adjustments that will have a start and finish, as Kathleen suggests.
Right.
And then some of them, again, with that ongoing nature. And I have in the table, I have a sort of a subcategory for those things which are ongoing or ultra short term. So in this case, I would just indicate that these are ongoing.
Correct. These are always ongoing, always working on them. For example, the budget. We're going to do that every year, and we're always going to do our best to be, fiscally efficient, whether the town thinks we are or not, but we do. And we create fiscally efficient and accountable budgets. We work hard at that. So,
anybody else have anything on section 14, so we can let Kathleen jump off, because I know she's got guests.
Oh, Tira, I was just going to say, under the action steps, it says improve facilities and meet the needs of all students. I know if you wanted to give yourself a slam dunk, like, the roof project is obviously something that's a current facility need that's in action. I know you're trying to give yourself some slam dunks, things that we know we can look back on and check the box. But
yeah, the roof and the safety projects that we're working on, those are short-term projects within the facilities.
Right.
And those will be done within the next year or two.
Right. So those kinds of things are great, to even though we know that they're currently happening, that the box might not get checked for, like you said, Kathleen, a year or two. And those kinds of things in there, and having those like action steps listed, it'll feel good to look back and, check it, say, yeah, we are improving the facilities. We did do these things, you know,
Correct.
over that time. And so I think even I know, like Kathleen, that there were some things on that facility budget list that weren't going to go in this year. Like I know, I remember from budget talks, maybe locker rooms. Was that something else that was on?
Yeah, we're not doing that, but we are doing the HVAC system. We got a grant to do that through the, we did get a grant from the state to do that for our mechanical pathway program. So that is being done.
But those are some things like locker rooms or gym floors, or some of those things are things that might be done in 5 years or 8 years.
Yes, eventually they're going to have to be done. That's right.
So those are some of the things on the improved facilities and.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I can get those in there too. So, so Kathleen, if you're sending that text to Melinda, hopefully she and I can connect tomorrow and just flesh out a little bit more. Because like I was saying, you know, part of the purpose of this document, well, it's got multiple functions, right? So we've gone way into detail about stuff that might have been included in the last PoCD. For example, they did have a section on education, but that didn't get a very thorough treatment. So to me, the value of this internally, right, for us as town employees, volunteers, you know, staff members, elected officials, whatever, is that if you have the arguments laid out in the fullest possible detail, when you are making your other arguments, your other points, say in finance meetings or for specific projects, you can point back to the through line of the logic that's been established and say, you know, look, 30 people worked on this document who are very involved in the town, and we prioritized in these ways, and it's giving us, you know, it's aligning to our priorities. So since it's aligned to our priorities, let's pursue them. So it gives everybody involved another tool in the box, so to speak.
Okay. All right, I understand. That's fair. It's a good point. Okay.
All right,
Well,
but I think we are good for tonight unless anybody has anything else on education. Going once?
No? Okay. Thank you.
Okay, Kathleen, thank you. Have a good holiday.
Yeah, you too.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas. Okay, I'll touch base with Melinda and we'll get back.
Great, thank you, Kathleen.
Tomorrow. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
All right, scrolling down, guys. Let's hit the library. The library. I don't think Allison is on tonight. She'd said she probably wasn't going to make it. No, it doesn't look like it. All right, the floor is open. Did anybody see anything in section 15.1, library services background? History, nice pictures. All right, 15.2, the actual services, library services offers. And Allison did send me some commentary last week, so this is edited since the time that we worked on it a few weeks ago. 15.3, challenges and opportunities for library services. And those bullet points are the ones that Allison sent back to me as her maintenance pressing needs. Okay, so we are at suggested action steps, library services. Again, don't pay any attention to the messy formatting, but let's make our highs, mediums, lows as best we can here.
It's hard to do that without Allison, you know. But
I know.
Did she give you any indication of any of these?
I mean, I think that's how these are more or less listed, although let me read through them aloud again, because that actually helps clarify.
Yeah, that'll help, because
well.
I was involved in that too, so.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
Good.
Okay, work with the Board of Selectmen and the Building Committee on the development of the recommended 10-year plan for public facilities. Develop additional early literacy programs through stronger partnerships, that's the plural, with the school and other community partners. Continue to seek out and provide technology for use by the community. Examples include next-gen e-readers, updated desktop computers, DIY tools. Develop programs for lectures, authors' readings, music, and fine arts to more fully utilize the community center. Increase the number of educational programs and other after-school programs for all ages. Oh, I see. Programming could be developed as a partnership between Thompson Public Library Recreation Department, Thompson Public Schools, and Teague. Consultation with QVCC, Nichols College, UConn, and the regional vocational high schools may be possible to create an adult education program based at the library. Continue to upgrade and adapt the library website to meet user needs. Develop more volunteer opportunities connected to the library. And work with Friends of the Library and the Library Board of Trustees to develop new fundraising campaigns, both event-based campaigns and direct solicitations to donors.
Well, I may be
right.
prejudiced because I love that library, even though I don't live in Thompson. I think they're all top priorities.
Well, I can tell you that I think it was these top four that were Allison's top echelon. You know, and I would say that all along we have called the 10-year plan
A priority. Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah.
I think they're good the way they are myself, in the order that they are.
Yeah, I
All right.
agree.
Does anything else stick out to anybody here?
Well, I like the develop more volunteer opportunities. No, actually work with Friends of the Library and the Library Board for the fundraising campaigns, because it sounds like, you know, their budget, to me, and this goes for any town where a budget has to be cut, they look at the library. It's real, you know, and start cutting libraries. So I think work with Friends of the Library and Board of Trustees is really important.
Yeah, it was very illuminating to me when we were talking about this section with Allison. She was very clear and quite forceful in that, you know, libraries aren't allowed to monetize their services directly, at least in the state of Connecticut.
Right.
You know, I mean, Leslie had come up with some suggestions, Joey Martino had come up with some suggestions, and Allison's feelings were that they were simply not allowable under the Connecticut statutes that govern libraries. So I purged all that out of here, and that pretty much leaves the library with what their Friends of Association is able to do for them. So yeah, that was my way to get that back in there.
What do you mean, Tara, by that? I'm not clear on what that.
So the Friends of the Library is able to raise funds. They do raise funds. They have the book sale or whatever else they do, and I think they might even do at least one direct campaign. And it is set up not that those funds go directly to the library, but somehow the Friends of the Library are able to use them on behalf of the library. And don't ask me what the distinction is, because I couldn't tell you, but that was the arrangement. So you know, those suggestions that Joe had about housing the Historic Society archive there, I think Allison was very favorable toward the archive, but was very insistent that there was no allowable mechanism to have revenues generated by that program flow directly back to the library.
Yep.
Oh, like they can't show positive revenue?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because any revenue that the library collects, say like on fees, etc., that goes into the general fund. That does not go into the library, or a special fund for the library.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah, so that was the source of why she was pushing back so hard on some of those suggestions that were coming up. Not that she thought they were unworthy on their face, but that she really believes that they are not possible within the allowable structure.
And that's a state a state library thing.
Yep.
So like
That is what
like
she
if
said.
you were renting a conference room at a library in any town in the state of Connecticut and they collected, like, there's not like fees. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
And that goes to the general government.
Right. Goes to, yep. Okay.
Right, right. Whereas the Friends of the Library could theoretically host an event that was ticketed or a fundraiser event, and they are, for whatever reason, able to use those funds generated for the benefit of the library, but it doesn't actually flow directly to them.
Yep. Further up above, Tira, she mentioned something about the community building. Keep going, back up. About keep going.
Oh, hold on, let me change the view on this. I forgot I switched over to the smaller format again. Hold on. My aging eyes can't see it. Okay, so keep going from here.
Yep. Hold on, wait a second. Challenges, maybe it's the beginning paragraph of challenges. Hold on. Well, I don't know where it is. It might be further back up, but she talks about the need for upgrading technology in the community center to, like, for live stream and speakers and all of that stuff, but that's not further down in the action steps. So it's not, it's listed as a kind of like a goal in one of these paragraphs. It might be further up a little bit. You see where
Probably up here then.
yeah, it's up here. Yeah, up here a little.
Yeah, I can see where you are. The investment for the technical capacity of the library to live stream proceedings for the town's YouTube channel. That was in specific reference to utilizing the community center for the community, meaning for the purposes of governance.
Right. I mean, I think it's all around, because further down, you know, in the action steps, she talks about a goal of being a space for lectures and this, which that would be like a goal, but an action step would be to be purchasing or, you know, equipment to be able to do those, things.
Right.
You know, or securing a grant or whatever, because yeah, the technology piece. I mean, I don't even think they have, like when we do a babysitting course over there, you know, they don't even have a TV that with like an HDMI cord, you know, to plug into it. Yeah. So I don't know. Yeah. Or maybe they just didn't give us that one. Maybe they gave us the old one.
They do have one with an HDMI.
I'm sure they do.
I know. I'm quite certain I've used it.
HDMI. But yeah, I just think that, and I know that we've mentioned several times the speaker system and just you know, the more functions that we were doing there before COVID, the challenge of the acoustics of those rooms for lectures and stuff. So I don't know if that would go in action steps or whatnot.
Okay. Anybody have anything else on the library? I'm going fast through these first three because the last two there are land use stuff that didn't get as thorough a treatment because of how late they came in the process. So I want to be sure that we get all that stuff as well. One more call for anything else on the library? All right. Section 16, renewable energy and energy conservation. And I believe that when I sent this out, it was after I had added in some additions that I got from the Center for Ecotechnology. They are the recipients of a grant to work with municipalities sort of all over the New England region. Thompson's on their list. I had asked them just to review this essentially for factual content and you know, anything that their expertise might suggest. So there is some new stuff in here.
I want to ask you a question. After the little list where it says the prices in Connecticut, Mass, under there,
Yep.
the paragraph under that, it says 9.4 million metric tons of energy-related carbon dioxide per person. as measured in 2017. Now that seemed like an outrageous amount. I just wanted to check that was right.
Essentially copied and pasted directly from the data set that this is taken from, which is U.S. Energy Information Administration. This was a differently stated metric from that same organization, but actually one of the things that CET pointed out is that the metric that I used, which was sort of the aggregate metric tons, ends up looking skewed because the population of Texas is so much higher than the population of Connecticut, even though their relative position as emitters doesn't really change. So this was their recommendation, and that is, like I said, copied and pasted exactly over. So
okay, well,
that it is correct.
It seemed extreme to me, and also it doesn't say per person annually as measured in 2017. So there's no time frame for that. And I don't know if that's accurate either, if it's annual. You know, I would say that's my lifetime, but you know.
I'll go back and double check it, Karen, because maybe that's the piece that I missed, because it seemed weird to me too, and I just kept looking at it and looking at it.
I mean, if it is annual, it still seems extreme, but there is no time parameter for that big number.
Yep. No, it's a good catch. I will make sure to double check it before we go to print, so to speak.
Thank you.
All right. Anything else on this overview of energy use in Thompson first section? Then we have a contribution by our very own Alvin Hill, complete with diagram. Where are we? I'm using a screen and a hard copy, so bear with me, guys. Renewable energy as a general topic. Renewable energy specific to anaerobic digestion. Solar siting and agricultural use. I expect Judy Rondo to have quite a bit to say here. I did try to express all those concerns in here, Judy.
I know it was a sensitive topic. I did see that you got some comments in there, so I was satisfied with that. There was one thing I was thinking about, but I know we're really not looking at changing content at this point, but it was, oh gosh, it was something about, and I didn't even stop to look it up, so I apologize that I'm kind of having a hard time putting my finger on it. But the Rivers Alliance of Connecticut had sent a letter to Connecticut Deep asking for a moratorium on the approval of solar facilities because Connecticut Deep, or the state of Connecticut, had adopted some standard for the placement of solar facilities on, I don't know if it was on agricultural land or in open space situations, but they weren't, when applications were coming in, they weren't enforcing that. But I think at this point in time, it's probably too late to refer to that.
I mean, if it's something that you could put your hands on and summarize into something I could essentially cut and paste and that still makes sense here, I would say it's still probably worth sending it to me, because I will look at it and I either can or cannot fit it into this narrative.
Okay, I'll take a look at that first thing in the morning, see if I can find it.
Okay.
Then.
Yeah, I mean, I am of the opinion and on record as saying that I think that there is potential for solar grazing, for co-location of agricultural function with solar siting. But that doesn't just mean willy-nilly, obviously. And there are places where it has seemed to work. I mean, you know, it's been established in Europe for a while, as I understand, and we're not getting the same kind of complaints. Of course, they have been much more developed in Europe for a much longer period of time. But, you know, I think we have to keep ourselves open to it as a possible solution, in that it is a balancing of worthy goals, right? We're pro-agriculture, we're pro-renewable energy. They do come into conflict.
Right.
So how do you mitigate the conflict?
Right. And yeah, I thought that you addressed that pretty adequately in here.
All right, so here's the meat of it. Suggested action steps, renewable energy and conservation. Again, I will read them out, and then we can high, low, medium, short, medium, long term. Compile and publish guides to energy efficiency resources for homeowners on the municipal website. Include information for financing upgrades to existing homes, as well as potential energy efficiency strategies for new construction. Also provide information and links to PACE financing as an option for commercial entities. Work with Connecticut Green Bank to assess the potential for municipal solar collection sites. I'm just going to move that to a short term because that is an open dialogue. Set a goal to install solar collectors on at least one municipal building and or derive 50% of municipal energy from renewable sources by 2030. When commercial renewable energy installations are proposed, assign an ombudsman to shepherd these projects through all aspects of the town permitting process. Development should include preliminary meetings with the Board of Selectmen and Planning and Development staff with the purpose of confirming municipal support prior to the formal application process. When new residential subdivisions or commercial developments are proposed, PZC should encourage incorporation of renewable energy sources and design that aligns with Energy Star or Passive House standards. Annually review and adjust zoning regulations. We refer to this throughout, but that's okay. Zoning regulations to encourage renewable energy development in a sustainable manner consistent with town priorities. Identify and pursue suggested energy efficiency actions towards certification by the Sustainable CT program. Work with the Center for Ecotechnology to develop food waste diversion to the Fort Hill Farm Biodigester. Strategies must include, well, strategies and strategies, that's a wording problem, that's my problem. For municipal, school, and private business sources. And form a committee to explore potential for adding municipal hydroelectricity generation with a goal to initiate implementation by 2030. Okay, let's start with high, medium, low priority. What do we got?
Well, I think the first one should probably be a medium priority.
Okay.
The second one, I would say high priority.
Yeah.
And high priority for the third one as well.
Although obviously longer term.
Right, yeah.
Yeah. Alvin, Randy, you guys are on here from PZC. This is a good time for you guys to chime in here too.
I like what you've outlined. In my book,
Okay.
anyway.
Yeah, I'm not going. I agree with Alvin on that. I was trying to think of something that I could add that would be positive, an improvement. But I think you've done a real good job. The one thing, not to knock the biodigester, but I think that's all but working right now, or it will be within days or weeks. And
Yep.
I don't think there's going to be any opportunity for more of that in the town because of they need the animal waste and the food waste. And so I think it's great what they're doing, but I don't think that we need to, I don't think that we can look for much expansion of that source of renewable power.
Well, I don't think we're trying to expand the capacity of the biodigester per se. I mean, the capacity is what it is, and they've made their deals, one of which is actually with the town. The piece that we want to incorporate on the town side is to develop the programs that divert local waste sources over there, because it needs to be constantly fed. There is also at least one law on the books in Connecticut for the diversion of organic waste, I think specifically to biodigesters when they are sited within a certain distance from communities. Judy, do you?
I'm sorry, I don't know that much about it.
I am pretty sure that it is close to that specific. That Connecticut Deep has embraced the idea of anaerobic biodigestion to the point where legislation was added about the diversion of organic waste in general, with the implication that it's food waste, mostly from commercial sources, obviously, institutional food waste. Superior Bakery, I'm trying to get them hooked up with Kai's. So not so much that we increase their capacity as that we satisfy their needs to continually output to the capacity that they have. And the town does benefit from that. They agreed to essentially sell back at a reduced rate power to the town. So that's what that is. I don't know, I do kind of feel like there aren't enough action steps here, but maybe I'm just too wordy for my own good, which is not impossible. Well, let's just keep going down this list then. So we've got a medium, a high priority, long term. The idea of the ombudsman for these kinds of installations. Now, I don't know, maybe that's redundant to the ZEO, but maybe it's somebody who just shepherds through the whole process. In other words, they go to building, they go to zoning, they go to wetlands. I don't know, Cindy, what's your thoughts there? She's still here?
Yeah, I'm here. Yeah.
There
Which
you
one
are.
are you talking about? On my thoughts?
Right. When commercial renewable energy installations are proposed, assign an ombudsman to shepherd these projects through all aspects of the town permitting process. Development should include preliminary meetings with the Board of Selectmen and Planning and Development staff with the purpose of confirming municipal support prior to the formal application process. I mean, it's possible that that person is actually me, since it's, Board of Selectmen isn't really, the ZEO doesn't go in front of the Board of Selectmen, but
Right.
I don't know. That's why I'm asking for your opinion
All right.
here.
So you're asking what level of priority that is then?
What level of priority and how you feel it sounds logistically?
Let me just, no, I kind of agree with Alvin that I think it sounds fine the way it's written, and I think it's an important issue to consult with the project and see what their steps need to be to get their project done. Yeah.
Okay. All right, and the annual review, that's in just about every section, so that's an ongoing priority. Residential subdivisions, commercial developments proposed, encourage incorporation of renewable. That's more of a goal almost than an action step, so I'm just going to plunk that in the medium range. Okay. Anybody got anything else on the renewable energy topic?
Just as a point of
Before we go-
information, on your last bulleted item, there was a committee that looked at all the hydroelectric in their town. And so if that gets resurrected, you should talk to Joe Iammartino. He might have the records on that. There was a committee that was doing this. Okay.
All right. Maybe I'll rephrase that to revive the committee. That was not one I came across any evidence of. Interesting indeed. Okay, but I have that note. I'm going to have a busy Tuesday. Okay, here it is. This is the crowning jewel of the document, PZCers and other land use persons. Section 17, future land use. 17.1, and this was for Cindy, who had asked that we go back and review the prior PoCD. So that's what this is, review of 2009 PoCD future land use issues, strategies, and action steps. Any comments here?
No, I read through it, and you know, you put it together pretty well.
Okay. All right. I don't want to, you know, I don't want to miss anything that we think should have been covered. 17.2, subdivision regulations revision. Our next opportunity to spend many extra evenings together. Anybody have anything here that they wanted to call out? Particularly Alvin, Cindy, and Randy, since they are our representatives from PZC. Oh, somebody's trying to chat. What do we? Oh, okay, I got it. Leslie is headed out, no problem. Okay, so mostly this goes to Randy, Alvin, and Cindy, the section on subdivision regulations. What are your thoughts having read it?
Long.
Other than long. And Carolyn and I did go through this pretty thoroughly back and forth, but again, there's two commissioners on here, and I want to give them the chance to weigh in because most of this was not developed when we had the actual working group evening.
The only again, it goes back to the shared driveways. The only concern, and you know, I've heard a little bit of rumbling since the regulations came in. The only concern is the not building new roads.
Well, who are you hearing those rumblings from? Developers who want to dump a road on the town?
Obviously developers, but also, you know, a couple of other people have questioned it, and to the point where is it going to discourage developers from coming into our town to develop?
Well, I will say that I think I came up with a partial solution, and this might not be directly addressing this, but I think at least tangentially it does. You remember when David Held brought up to us, you know, how we phrase the thing on interior lots and how that's one of the things that creates the contradictions between the zoning regulations and the current subdivision regulations. I think what we need to do there, and I'll bring this up once we start to work on it, on that document, is just like when we did with the houses in the Lake District that are 2 in front, 3 in back, to make it clear in those general standards that lots that are arranged on a shared driveway would not be considered interior lots, to explicitly say, you know, pack them on this driveway, right? So that it's not infiltrating into the background green space, the background open space. Obviously it's something we need to work on.
Yeah, and that'll come through in the revising the subdivision regulations too.
I don't know, Randy, Alvin, what are your thoughts there?
Well, the changes that we've made in the zoning regs, we've got a lot of stuff we got to double check, make sure that we're on the same page on both the subdivision regs and the zoning regs.
Right.
And,
Right.
so you're talking about lot sizes. Well, we reduced the lot sizes on the zoning regs. So I don't know why developers, they just need to be a little more imaginative how to utilize their space better. And this is going to be real interesting for the next year or two, trying to make, work the two together as we go along.
Agreed, definitely. But I do think it's doable. So I guess my question to you guys is that this section is the roadmap that I've tried to provide for that, and does it make sense to you guys as it's laid out here, at least as a starting point? I guess that's where I'm really going here.
Yeah, you put it together well after our meeting. I thought our meeting was good. Was productive. And I think it was put together pretty good. Yeah.
Alvin,
It's
you sound
long.
commonly quiet.
Alvin, you have anything?
I digested more.
What's that? We only got part of that, I think, Alvin.
Well, it's just that I think more about it, I think. As outlined, it sounds reasonable. And I know there's, no new roads are going to be a problem. Shared driveways, I mean, that could be worked on. But as outlined, I don't see anything that jumps out at me and says no.
Right.
Okay. Yeah, and the devil's going to be in the details when we start to actually work on those subdivision regulations.
Correct. Yep.
And again, just because, as Cindy has already brought up, we know this is going to come up. Remember that part of the point is to drive the development, the really close development, into the public utilities districts and to some extent out of the outlying districts, so that you can still develop there, but that development has to avoid that kind of suburban sprawl that's going to be distressing to everybody. Like when people say they want to preserve the rural character, they want to preserve that it looks like a farm town or that it looks like there's a lot of open space. You can't do that if you're going to continually allow new roads. That cuts into that space. And as we've established, financially, they're a total loser for the town. But again, that sort of is all proof in the pudding stuff for the next 6 months. Yay. All right, but I don't hear any substantial, let's change, let's alter. So let's move on. Infill development. So that was not developed to any great extent at the last time we met. So again, especially PZCers, but anybody really who's been a part of this, call it out. If you see anything that doesn't make sense, is confusing, could be articulated better, let's catch it now. I love this little diagram. Jeff, Joanne, you guys too.
Yeah,
Judy, Brian,
I'm here.
Amy. Yeah, I know. I'm looking for you guys to give me something to make sure that I'm on the right track here.
This is Jeff. I think everything looks good so far.
Yep.
Okay. Okie dokie. Adaptive reuse of buildings. Went through this quite a bit with Joe I. Threatened buildings, brownfields. Well, brownfields are later. Success stories. Does anybody know what the Masonic Temple is currently being used for? I know it was for sale. Was it?
It was
Purchased?
purchased. I think it's a personal, it could be a private residence now.
Yeah, this is Amy St. Ange. It is a private residence.
Okay.
That's why we can't park there anymore for voting.
Oh.
Oh, you didn't hear that?
piece.
Oh, yeah. No, we can't vote
No, I
at
didn't.
the East Thompson Fire Station anymore.
Interesting. No, I didn't get that
Yeah.
little bit.
Bummer, huh?
Well, I will say the residents were very agreeable to people parking there during the election. But obviously it's not the best scenario. But to their credit, they were very amicable about it.
Well, that's good. So just as an aside then, Amy, early on, we revisited that issue of consolidating polling stations. So that might be the inroad to that conversation.
Absolutely. It may be. The
Yeah.
registrars are preferring to give it as a trial run for a new location without combining District 1 and District 2 at this point.
Okay. All right. I love it when I learn new things. Okay. Oh, look at the beautiful William Mason house. Yay.
Beautiful.
Yeah, they've done such a good
Amazing.
job over there.
Yeah, terrific.
Okay. So anybody have anything else on the adaptive reuse of buildings? Brownfields? If anybody feels I'm breezing through this too fast, by the way, please feel free to stop me.
You're fine.
Okay. And then suggested action steps, future land use. And this is another place. If again, I did this very quickly. Actually, I did the action steps very quickly because I was so fatigued from working on the rest of it. So I am particularly open to adding action steps here, but let's read these out just to make sure we've got them, and then we'll prioritize them again. PZC to update subdivision regulations, particularly regarding construction of new roads, shared driveways, and cul-de-sacs, requirements for the inclusion of sidewalks, and standards for open space set-asides and conservation subdivisions with these sub-actions. Correct contradictions with the zoning regulations, specifically in regards to shared driveways. Narrow the standards whereby the town will accept new roads. Specify that cul-de-sacs are to be treated as private roads / shared driveways. Clarify the standards under which sidewalk waivers may or may not be allowed. Narrow the conditions for sidewalk waivers. Clarify the conditions for open space set-asides versus conservation subdivision requirements. Strengthen the conservation value of conservation subdivisions by increasing the set-aside percentage and reducing lot sizes and frontages. So those were the specific things named as actionables when we review the subdivision regulations. Number two, develop, yep, go ahead.
Can you combine the clarify the standards for sidewalks with, and narrow the conditions? Can you combine that?
I could.
Because it's sort of like saying the same thing.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, I can do that.
So I'm not understanding on the conservation part. You said the conservation subdivision requirements. Okay, so that's the requirements in our subdivision regulations for conservation, because the conservation.
Right. So if you read them right now, and I only just discovered this as I was working on this section back and forth with Carolyn, we describe conservation subdivisions,
right,
but we do not describe any conditions that are different for the open space set-aside percentages. So a literal reading of the conservation subdivisions right now are that you don't need to put any more than 20% aside, but that's the same as an open as your regular open space. So obviously that doesn't make any sense You
And-
want to
and-
incentivize the set-asides by allowing developers to do something extra, but they've got to give extra as well. So that was what that all came out of.
Okay, and that's controlled by the Planning and Zoning Commission when people come in for a subdivision with input
Correct.
from conservation.
Correct.
Commission. Okay, all right.
Right. Conservation doesn't issue them or not.
Right,
It's just
exactly,
it's
yeah.
a term of art, so to speak. A conservation subdivision, also occasionally known as an open space subdivision, but for clarity, Carolyn suggested, and I agreed, that we should differentiate between just regular old open space requirements for any old subdivision and the elevated requirements for a conservation subdivision, which we do want to incentivize in the outlying districts.
Okay, all right.
Develop strategy of adaptive reuse for vacant or distressed town-owned properties. Specific attention must be paid to the rehabilitation of the property at 65 Main Street with guidance from the Turtle Lot Trust. Reach out to private owners of threatened properties with significant town history to assist them with appropriate planning. This is mostly those 3 church-owned properties. Office of Planning and Development work with the Mill Sites Redevelopment Advisory Committee and the First Selectman to create potential redevelopment plans for key brownfield properties and partner with the Eastern Connecticut Land Bank on high priority brownfield projects within Thompson. Like I said, guys, I slapped these together fast after I worked through the rest of this. So is anything missing? How do we want to articulate anything different?
Sound good.
No, because you covered working, getting the departments to, getting a starting point for an applicant or for a person who's interested in what their procedure is. So you've covered that up above. So I don't, and I think we've covered that in the zoning regulations too, pretty well.
Yeah.
The process. Okay. So you want to know what order you want to put these in?
Yeah. And,
Well, we know the
so
subdivision is the first one.
Right. First order of action, short
Right.
term, high priority, must be done.
Right.
How about,
Must be done, will be done.
Tara, how about the
Yeah.
third one from the bottom? Maybe put that one at the bottom? Reach out to private owners of threatened properties, maybe make that one last?
Yeah.
Above the brownfield properties and above the land bank property projects?
Move those up, you mean?
Yeah, I mean, since, well, you mentioned there aren't that many private owners of threatened properties, right? I mean, it's still on the list, but I think we need to work on the other ones, too.
Yeah. Yeah, and of course, to a certain extent, it's a snapshot in time. There aren't currently historic properties that are threatened other than those,
Right.
4 or 5 that were identified. That doesn't mean there wouldn't be in the
Right.
future. I don't know off the top of my head what those would be particularly,
Right.
but they could exist.
It sounded like there was a lot of them, so maybe put that at the bottom so it doesn't seem quite as important.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. Jeff, Brian, Judy? What are your feelings here as participants in this process?
Sounds good.
I thought develop a strategy of adapted reuse is a high priority in it, but it's also obviously long-term.
It's number 2.
Yeah.
It's already number 2.
But I agree with you. I thought that was a high priority too. Even though it's long-term and and that's dependent on funding for 65 Main Street, right? Or is that what the?
Well, right, and that's why I was more general about that.
Okay.
It is the town-owned property with historic value that is currently threatened. It doesn't mean that there isn't another one out there that couldn't be threatened at some later point, but that is the blighted property that we own right now.
Well, it's already 7, so it can't get any higher, right?
Yeah.
It's already what, did you say?
It's already second on the list.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
Yeah,
right,
yeah. Yeah, I think its placement in the list is okay there.
Yeah.
Alvin, Randy, how about you guys? Anything else you want to see in here, particularly from the PZC perspective, as actionables on future land use?
Well, all
If you
I'd
could have a
say
wish
is on,
list.
talking about whether 65 Main Street is a high priority. Yes, it is, and it's immediate and long-term both. And I think that that should, we should strike while the iron's hot, not, and I think that we have to a point. I mean, as far as trying to work with the powers that be, but I think that is probably, well, short of the P&Z subdivision regulations that we'll have to work with, I think this should be right below that.
It is.
Okay. Yeah. Well, yeah. So he's saying keep it there.
Yeah.
What about any other wish list you guys might have for PZC that isn't represented here yet? Is there anything I've missed? Particularly Randy and Alvin, you guys are even long-term PZCers. So, how would you philosophically want to move forward? Or maybe that's the wrong question. What things would you like to see happen that we can propose to happen over the next 10 years that may not have already been addressed?
Well, in my book, here would be, we got to develop a definition of what a new road is.
Okay.
That's got to be, other than that, it's going to be is it a cul-de-sac? It shouldn't be. We have to really find a definition for what a new road is.
So you want me to add that under the sub-actions for the subdivision regs, probably, yes?
Oh, yes, yes.
Yeah, so define
Well,
that.
how about if you just add, as you've already got it as a second bullet point, why can't you just say and define? Where you already say the town will accept new roads and define new roads, so you're not adding another thing, you're just adding two more words to a sentence?
Yeah, it's a good idea.
Yeah, I can do that. I can do that. I'll make it as graceful as possible. Anything else, guys?
Tara, do you want to, like, in this list, cross-reference some of the other things you mentioned, such as solar, the solar ag issue as part of future land use? You want to talk about that again here, something like that? Do you want to
Not a
talk?
bad idea, Karen.
And do you want to talk about like the relationship with Wyndham Land Trust?
I don't think I can, that latter part, I don't think I can do short term. I mean, we're talking about me doing this tomorrow.
Okay. Well,
I
I
might
just didn't
be able to pull more in about the solar versus agricultural.
When we were discussing that, or you were discussing that earlier, I believe the Department of Ag and Deep did come up with a plan that was that they'd agreed upon, so that because the easiest land to develop for solar is the most prime farmland, and they did. I'm at a loss to tell you what the results were, but I know that they did work on trying to get a solution so that the most prime land wasn't going to get all sucked up for solar development.
Do you think Joan Nichols would be able to turn that around to me quickly if I email her first thing? That sounds like something Joan would be working on.
Yeah, I think, and if she didn't, she'd be able to tell you who to contact to do it.
But
Okay.
even if you just put a general action step saying you're trying to reconcile those two things.
That's
It's an
not bad,
ongoing thing
Karen.
that you're working on.
Yeah.
Yeah, the other
Well,
person you could contact would be Alicia Sharima. I think that's her last name. At the Rivers Alliance.
I feel like I've talked to her before. Let me, I'll go back through my old emails and see. 'Cause when I was writing writing up the special provision section for the zoning regs, I know I contacted somebody through Guskowski, and I want to say Alicia might have been the first name. So I probably have
Okay.
some back and
Possibly,
forth
yeah.
with her.
And I don't know if it belongs here or you have it somewhere else, but is there, in future land use, are we not encouraging woodlot preservation?
I was thinking about that too, or open space preservation or
Outside the subdivision requirements, you mean?
Yeah.
because that's a key part of future land use is what aren't we going to develop?
That's true.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I have it here as a note to myself. I'll go back and look at the conservation section, but
Yeah, you can probably pull something out of there.
because I think we talked about it at least a little bit.
Open space falls under Public Act 490 as well, and so I don't know whether there's any, if that's any help to you or not.
Everything helps, Randy. Okay, so we are just about at 8:30, so we've been at this an hour and a half. I think I have enough to go forward. I'll just very briefly, let me stop this share and just bring up, just to look at it, to make sure that you guys find it readable and clear, the way I'm creating the action item tables as the last section. It's still in Excel. I haven't pulled it over into, I hate this. Oh, there we go. So color coded with each subsection. And as we've identified, high, medium. So this first category is things that are ongoing or to be completed in less than a year. Short term here. Again, by topic. With the action, any sub-actions or notes assigned to, and the priority assigned to it by the group. And that goes through. And then the long term. So I am having some trouble carrying those over into the document, but I will have it done tomorrow, one way or the other.
Why not keep it in Excel and just add it on?
Well, that might be the way that I end up having to go.
Then it'll be easier.
I was
to
having
change
trouble
it.
doing it either way, but I will find some way to do it. So just to let you guys know, tomorrow is my day to finish this. I will continue to accept email comments on this through the day and work them in as far as I can. But the PZC deserves the opportunity to read it for at least a day or two before the holiday, because nobody's going to read it on Christmas Eve. Nobody's going to read it on Christmas. And Monday is the meeting at which this must be voted on and adopted. Now, the good news is, because it's not a regulatory document, if we fudge it a little bit, you know, we decide it's close but not perfect, there's no penalty. There is a penalty to not adopting it, but it's still my burden to get an intelligent and useful document back to the commission. So this is all I'm doing tomorrow, and I'm going to do it until it's done, whatever hour of the day or night that is. I've given myself until like 9 o'clock tomorrow night, but which I think is reasonable. It's pretty close. But like I say, continue to send me comments all day if you are so inclined. You don't have to, obviously, if you feel you've had your say. but everything does help as I sort of focus on these things. So other than that, thank you all. I wish everybody was on this so I could thank everybody who's worked on it.
You can send us all an email tomorrow.
And I'm sure I will. Well, I probably won't send it till Wednesday morning, but I will.
Tomorrow. Gotta be tomorrow before you go home tomorrow night.
Yeah. All right, guys. It's going to be a really, really good document. More thorough a PoCD than certainly Thompson has had and that a lot of towns have had, but this, I believe, will position every board, every commission well to plan for things over the next 10 documents. I think it will be helpful to developers who go into the land use sections to try to discover what the town's priorities are. And I think you guys have articulated those priorities super, super well throughout this. I learned a lot. I think other people have learned some stuff. And I think that it's going to be a good piece of work. So thank you guys all.
Thank you, Tara.
Thank you, Tara.
Thank you.
All right,
Thanks.
guys. I'll talk to you soon.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Happy holidays.
Holidays.
Yep,
Good
happy
night.
holidays to everybody.